I love extreme films and extreme cinema, and whenever I post to my TikTok, to my Instagram, and Facebook, I don't get to really elaborate on what a lot of these films mean to me and why they resonate with me. I give a synopsis, I tell you why the movie's messed up, and it's all done in 1 minute and 30 seconds. And I'm sick and tired of people talking about the same extreme movies over and over again. Of course, the edgelords all come out when you say the word extreme, and they'll talk about a Serbian film or Salo or the Human Centipede or the Cannibal Holocaust crowd. So I thought that I would take the time to highlight 4 extreme films that I think are criminally underrated that absolutely deserve your attention if you're into extreme media. A lot of people will say that there's no need for extreme film and that it has no purpose and it has no meaning, and that I tend to disagree with. I love extreme film because a lot of things that I've gone through in my life, a lot of grief, a lot of trauma, a lot of personal experience, when I see those life events put out on film, it's almost like a form of therapy in order to internally deal with that trauma. In certain cases, yes, there are a lot of movies out there that are just gory for the sake of being gory or violent for the sake of just being ultra violent. But there are a lot of extreme films that have a lot of purpose behind them. Like Trauma is from Chile. It's not on this list, but that movie was made because of the rebellion against the Chilean government. And yes, it's a super gnarly movie, but the people that made it and the people that it was for understand why that movie was made. The same with Lex Ortega's Atroz. That's another one that was made for political reasons. I may not understand them, but the people it was intended for understand. So without further ado, we're going to start. I got 4 extreme films for you that if you haven't seen them, I highly recommend that you put them in your rotation and at least give them a shot. And the first one I have is a found footage mockumentary called Descent into Darkness, My European Nightmare, Sergei Prakov.
Here we are. It's the first day of the trip.
And this movie is absolutely insane from beginning to end. Sergei Prakov is about a journalist that goes to Paris on a European vacation, and he is documenting his entire stay there because it was a dream for him to go there. One thing leads to another, and we get to watch this man's descent into absolute madness. And the finale of this movie is unlike anything I've seen in many other extreme movies because this is a very tedious film. It takes its time getting there because it allows you to attach yourself to this character, to his innocence, to how naive of a person he is because he's so trusting of just all these people that he's around because he's trying to just film everything and see everything and take in the sights and really absorb the reasons that he went to Paris in the first place. But there's an event that happens where his camera is stolen.
Oh, my camera!
And he sees the dark, negative side of the world. And when these things start to affect him, he starts to lose his wits about him. And he goes to a complete, super dark, very ugly place that breaks out into some of the most batshit insane, ultra violent madness that you will ever see. Like, seriously, trigger warning, the last 20 minutes of Sergei Prakov is some of the most insane things that I've ever seen. And spoiler territory, if you're a fond lover of animals, there is a dead animal puppet show at the end of this movie that's absolutely nuts. But that may seem like an inhumane thing, but what he does with this family tops that by a million miles. The fact of an outsider going to visit a different city and seeing the things that you're exposed to when you go to different places has a lot of relevance in the world, especially with the way that, like, immigration is and people coming to the United States. It's like that in a lot of other countries as well. Outsiders from different places aren't necessarily generally accepted in different places. So when our boy Sorge stops over into Paris, there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, he looks different, or why is this weird guy here, or why do you have a camera strapped to your head? And he built this rig around his head to film everything, because this was before like body cams or, having a GoPro. Like, he was ingenious enough to make his own GoPro to film his European dream, which turns into an absolute blood-soaked nightmare. Sergei Prakov, Descent into Darkness, is one of my favorite found footage movies. There's just something special about how diabolically twisted it is to watch this man completely come totally unraveled. I've never seen much anything like it before. So if you have not seen Sergei Prakov, Descent into Darkness, I believe that it's on Tubi. You could definitely stream this one, and if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. The next one up is one of my favorite home invasion movies of all time. And this is a wicked combination of being a French-Spanish movie, and the movie is called Kidnapped. And listen here, because Kidnapped is a very diabolically mean-spirited movie that feels bleak and hopeless for the entire runtime. It's about a guy named Jamie and his wife Marta and his daughter that moved to Madrid to their dream home. They're going to carry their life into a forward, better direction with this move and this new home and a new job. Literally, out of the blue, these masked assailants break into their home. They get the father. They want to drain his bank accounts. They have motive for why they're doing what they do. Sounds like a pretty basic home invasion setup, doesn't it? Well, it does until it flips everything on its head. The way that Kidnapped is shot, it has these long tracking shots of what's going on, but it will also have like a picture-in-picture of a POV version of what's going on. So it's almost like it was shot in the 70s, but it wasn't. So you get all these different frames of the action that's going on, except it's absolute brutal carnage and violence. So it really sinks into the way that you consume this film. The other part of Kidnapped that really gets me is when it gets bleak and hopeless and they fight back against the kidnappers and all these different events happen with all this violence. You think at some point that this movie is going to have a happy ending, or they're going to get away, or something actually good is going to happen after an hour and 45 minutes of the bleakest shit that you've ever seen. And that's not the case, because Kidnapped has one of the most brutally unbelievable gut-punching endings that I've ever seen in a film, to the point that the first time I seen it, I had to rewind it because I couldn't even believe what I saw, because it was so utterly fucking devastating. This is a tour de force of a home invasion movie. The only other home invasion movie I think that I definitely like Funny Games, the original, way better than I like Kidnapped. But Funny Games, Michael Haneke, is also a very mean-spirited film. And I think Kidnapped is on that level, and maybe a little past that level on some aspects of the way that it's done, because it's just a mean-spirited, dirty, grimy movie that almost makes you feel bad for watching it. And it definitely doesn't get talked about enough in extreme film circles. Is it the most brutally violent? No. Is it the most gory? No. But tonally, Kidnapped goes to places that many films don't go. It allows you to get attached to these characters only to rip them away from you in such awful, brutal ways. And then whenever they give you a little glimmer of hope, it's just like you're an ant crawling along with a little piece of bread and somebody comes along and steps on you when you think you're going to eat. That's what Kidnapped feels like. If you haven't seen Kidnapped, it's on Tubi. There's also an English dub version of Kidnapped, which is terrible. I highly recommend to watch it with subtitles. But if you're looking for a home invasion movie that absolutely is going to knock the breath out of you with its content and with its meaning and with how diabolically delivered this film is, it's deliberately mean-spirited, and it leaves a stain on you, like feel it in your soul. Kidnapped is on Tubi. You can stream it, but if you love home invasion movies, you should definitely check out Kidnapped. Arguably one of my favorite found footage movies ever made is a film called Long Pigs. And a lot of people don't talk about Long Pigs because I think a lot of people don't even know that Long Pigs exists.
You know what they say, every cannibal wants to be a director, right?
I actually got my hands on a Blu-ray copy of Long Pigs, which I'm happy to own it physically, but I believe you could still go watch it on YouTube. It's on there uncut. I have no idea why it's still there, but the quality is like 480p. It's a rough watch. But if you love found footage, mockumentary, documentary style movies, I couldn't recommend Long Pigs enough. It's 100% my favorite movie ever made about cannibalism.
And if it was so wrong to eat it, then why would it taste so good?
Because it's about these two documentary students that talk this actual cannibal into allowing them to go with him during his daily life to record his everyday activities.
Oh my God. That did it.
Long Pigs is anything but basic. The way that this movie is written, the script, the acting is absolutely next to none for how this movie plays out, especially when we get introduced to the serial killer Anthony McAllister.
This is so good.
Because Anthony McAllister, who is a cannibal who murders prostitutes and eats them for dinner, is literally the nicest guy you're ever gonna meet. He has a great sense of humor. Everything he does it so very matter-of-factly that you get lured into the aura and the personality of Anthony, because he could be like your uncle or your best friend or your neighbor that you go borrow a spoonful of sugar from. He's just like a regular guy. The only difference with Anthony is that he loves to murder, kill, and cook prostitutes and eat them for dinner. He even belongs to a beer league hockey team.
Bunch of regular guys out there.
Where he plays with all his friends. He goes out afterwards, has beers, and then at night he goes grocery shopping. And grocery shopping to Anthony is riding up and down the strip and looking at hookers to see who looks like they taste good.
Hi, how you doing?
Luring them into his vehicle and back to his mother's house, because he does this all at his mother's, and he takes them into the basement, knocks them out, chops them up, kills them, and he makes food, because his goal in life is to write a cannibal cookbook of how he makes stew and all these different meals that Anthony makes that he likes to consume. So you have these two documentarians following this guy around, and you know that this is going to end bad. The whole entire movie, like, it's not a surprise how it ends, because he's a cannibalistic serial killer. Like, what do you think is going to happen? He's eventually going to be like, oh, you have too much information on me. I can't allow you to have all this information, and kill them. I'm not saying that's what happens, but it's something of the sort. But the brilliance of Long Pigs is the way that this movie plays out and how these two documentarians get sucked into Anthony's world. They start to feel like he's their buddy. They start to trust him. They start to feel like he's a friend, because that's this character. That's how nice he is. That's how special of a person he seems. He seems like a guy that would go out and give poor people money or food and help anybody, because he just has this calm, loving demeanor that makes you just want to give him a hug, even while he's cooking a pot of stew, slicing carrots to put in with the meat, and you know that the meat is from the prostitute that they watched him kill in the basement. And Long Pigs is such a technical achievement for, I can't imagine that their budget was very much money. This is a very low budget film that's done so well. I almost wish that they would remake it with the same actors, because I think this is a movie that a lot of people not only would want to see, but need to see. So when you're talking about extreme movies, I 100% put Long Pigs way at the top of the list. It's not the most brutally violent or anything like that, but the subject matter of a cannibal's life and walking in his shoes and following him about for everything he does. It is an absolutely brilliant fucking film. You can find it on YouTube. I could also put a link down below. If you Google it, you can find physical Blu-ray copies of Long Pigs. Even if you blind buy it for $20 or whatever it costs, trust me, once you see Long Pigs, you won't be sorry. If you love horror and you love extreme movies, Long Pigs is an absolute must-watch. Last up on my extreme movies that need more attention and need talked about more when we're talking about extreme film is a little movie called Who's Watching Oliver. And I think Who's Watching Oliver is not only a masterpiece for how extremely brutally violent it is, but it's also, interestingly, one of the most beautiful love stories ever put to film. And I'll explain. So Oliver is about this mentally unstable man named Oliver who has a basically seemingly normal life during the day, but at night he roams around, he goes to bars, he's looking for victims because Oliver is a serial killer. While Oliver is doing his activities, we start to learn more about Oliver's upbringing, and we learn about the relationship that Oliver has with his mother. That's where Who's Watching Oliver starts to get exceptionally disturbing, because Oliver, being mentally unstable, is abused by his mother, who he talks to through like Zoom calls on the computer, but she gives Oliver the instructions to do the things that he does. Like she'll request that he gets a blonde or a redhead, or, you know, this girl pissed her off at the grocery store or whatever it is. And he's completely under the mental control of what his mother tells him to do. And it gets even deeper than that, because there is some very trigger warning, risque subject matter of the relationship between Oliver and his mother that becomes disgustingly ancestral type kind of vibes. There are a couple scenes in here for people that have weak stomachs. There's some SA scenes in here that are absolutely fucking brutal, especially when he's carrying out one of these scenes and his mother is on the screen watching him perform the acts that he's doing. And now you're saying, Chuck, wait a second. At the beginning of this, you said it's also one of the most beautiful love stories ever put to film. And in fact, I did say that because it is. Because while Oliver is out taking care of his business and murdering people and listening to his fucked up mother who's telling him to go out and murder these people, he meets a young woman named Sophia. And Sophia could be the best or the worst thing that ever happens to Oliver. She's this beautiful young woman. They meet, they start to conversate, and slowly over time, Oliver starts to fall in love with Sophia, and she's a normal woman that has no idea that the man that she's talking to is this brutal, nasty serial killer rapist that's doing these crazy things at night because his mother's telling him to do it. So as their relationship starts to build, and as Oliver is giving more of his emotions and more of his self to Sophia, the more that Oliver wants to break away from his mother, because he finally feels tenderness, care, and love and acceptance from another human being instead of the way that he's mentally abused by his mother. So Sophia is essentially a saving grace, but will she accept Oliver whenever she finds out what Oliver's up to? You're going to have to tune in to find that out. But what I can say is Oliver does reveal what he does to Sophia. And that's when this kind of comes off the rails, because it's almost about this unconditional love that two people can possess, and she almost isn't turned on by what Oliver does, but she just accepts the situation that he's in because of the connection that they have. So in the midst of all this rape and killing and SA and ancestral mother-son relationship, there's this underlying love story that intertwines with all that violence in Who's Watching Oliver, and watching it come about is one of the most beautiful bonds of a relationship I've ever seen in a movie, let alone an extreme movie about a brutal serial killer. The only thing that I could compare it to is the relationship in Bones and All, because in Bones and All, you know, two cannibals had to accept the fact that, like, I could love you so much until the day that I decide that I want to eat you, but we could be in love anyway. And Who's Watching Oliver is kind of like that, because I think in the back of Sophia's mind, as their relationship starts to develop, she always has that thing in her mind that any given day this guy could snap and stab the shit out of me and just fucking kill me. And I'm not going to spoil the ending of it, but like, I've done many videos about Who's Watching Oliver, and there's so many people that still haven't seen this movie, and it's one of the most, it's a disturbing film. It's extremely violent. It's bloody. There's gore. And like I said, it has a lot of severe, fucked up, and disturbing adult content that is very shocking. But it is a masterfully made film with knockout performances. It had a decent budget. The practical effects are amazing. And the fact of a movie that's so disgusting and disturbing to have so much heart easily propels it as one of my favorites, because we could watch Martyrs, and we could watch Frontiers, and we could watch a Serbian film. We can watch all these movies, but Who's Watching Oliver isn't like any of these movies, because it does have a message, it does have heart, and it's weird to watch all this murder and everything, but then still have the compassion and the feeling for who Oliver is as a person. Who's Watching Oliver is on Tubi. You can buy a Blu-ray of it. There's plenty of places that you can stream it if you just Google it. So I absolutely recommend Who's Watching Oliver more than any movie on this list. It's one of my favorite extreme films of all time. So now that I'm doing this YouTube channel and I'm going to break down movies a little bit more, I could either do them in groups of 3 or 4 or 2, or I could do in-depth deep dives on single movies. So you guys got to let me know in the comments, what would you like the YouTube channel to look like? Because I'm completely invested in this, and I could literally do an hour on every movie that I do and break them down completely to how I like them. I would take requests from you guys. So I don't know if you want them more in a list format, because I'm trying to figure out this algorithm here and figure out what my audience wants if they do come from my other platforms. So I figured I'd start by breaking down a couple of extreme movies that I think need more attention. But please, let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know if there's any movies that you would love for me to cover. Anything you guys want me to do, what you want to come to watch, because I'm going to keep doing YouTube. This is my next platform to conquer. I love being here. I wanted to do long form content for quite some time. And if you came from my other channels, thank you for coming over here. If you're new to my channel, I'm also on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm a little bit of everywhere. You could just Google me, but YouTube feels like a place that I can call home. So let me know in the comments what you would like to see from this channel. Until the next video, I'm Chuck. I'd love to be your movie guy, and thank you for tuning in.